members of the committee. Thanks very much. We're back for the work of the committee and Parliament, and hope that you have interacted with the communities and stakeholders during the constituency period. We have noted issues that we'll remark as we open. We'll now directly go to item number 3. Then I'll also I receive a letter from the minister late evening, and I will communicate with that before we start the meeting. We are going to adopt minutes, our standing minutes, as agreed that each and every portfolio committee meeting will start with the 5 minutes that we must adopt. Can I invite Mr. Salmon to then deal with the minutes so that we proceed by 10 to 9? We'll then adjourn, or 5 to adjourn for coffee, and then we'll come back at 9 o'clock. Mr. Salmon?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. The first minutes, I'm just busy opening, is for the 22nd of July, 2022. And this was the one where we were briefed by the State Law Advisor, the Department of Home Affairs, and the Electoral Commission on the Electoral Amendment Act. If I can just make it a bit bigger than members can see. Those present in the meeting.
You have not even, I'm not sure members, I'm seeing the same thing. We can't see, we just see your document file.
Okay, let me try a different way.
Yeah, thank you very much. 22 July. Yes, okay. You can proceed.
Yes, 22 July. So this was dealing with the Electoral Amendment Bill. And these are the members that were present. I don't know if I need to go through the document, but in the interest of time, we can just indicate whether members saw any issues on the pages, and we can say we have an adopter and a seconder.
Okay, you perhaps, if you, when you introduce the minutes, just indicate the subject matter.
Yes.
Then we will know what were the issues. And members, if they'll capture anything from the run-up pages, they will indicate. Members, these are the minutes of the 22nd July. Can I recognize a mover for adoption?
Chairperson, I'll move.
Thank you, Honorable Pillay. Move adoption. Seconder?
Second.
Thank you, Honorable Modise, Mr. Seconder. Any objection? No objection. Minutes carried. Can you move the second minutes?
Thank you, Chairperson. Sorry, I'm new to this managing meeting or managing Zoom meetings.
That's fine, understandable.
Give me a second.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
So, okay. The next meeting was that on the 4th of August, 2022. Can we confirm you can see this one?
Yes, I can confirm.
And it was a recap by myself on the outstanding matters on the Electoral Amendment Bill and the briefing by the Electoral Commission and further committee deliberations. And these were the members that were present.
Members, these are the minutes, August the 4th. Can I move invite for the mover.
I move, Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Disemza. Any seconder?
I'll second it, Chair. Thank you.
Seconder carried. Honorable Pillay, any objection? No objection. The minutes are carried. Can you move for the third minutes?
The next meeting was that on the 10th of August, 2022, again with the Electoral Commission, Electoral Amendment Bill, briefing by the Electoral Commission on outstanding matters and further deliberations, responses by the IEC and the State Law Advisor. And these were the members in attendance.
Thank you very much, members. On the 10th of August, yeah, the minutes. Can I invite mover for that adoption?
Chairperson, I'll move.
Thanks, Honorable Pillay. Mover. Seconder to the minutes.
I'll second, Chair.
Seconder carried.
May seem as if it's me and Pilay's minutes.
Thank you very much for seconding, Honorable Disemza. Any objection? No objection. Can we carry for minutes I carried? Can we move for the fourth minutes?
Thank you. Oh no, this is the 12th of July, sorry. Okay, sorry, Chairperson, I'm just going to try it a different way. I'm struggling with the speed of my computer. So that was the 8th of August. Okay, apologies. I'm sorry. I'm just I opened the meetings in alphabetical order, so these are going back in time. This one is the 19th of July. Again, a briefing by the State Law Advisor on the draft amendments to the bill, briefing by the Parliament Legal Service on outstanding technical amendments, and the comments on the Parliament Legal Services and State Law Advisor. And those are the members who are present.
Thank you very much. Can I invite mover for the adoption? The minutes on the 19th August, July.
Chairperson, I'll move since there's no one else speaking.
Thank you, Honorable Pillay. I think they're abstaining, so don't need to worry about the process. Thank you, Honorable Pillay. Any seconders, the minutes?
I second, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Disemza. Seconder, any objection? No objection. The minutes have carried. Can we deal with the last minutes?
Chairperson, just a reminder that we said we were going to do 10 from now on, just because we have to catch up before our study tour. So
No. Which decision? When was that decision carried by who?
Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, sorry, Chairperson. This was taken when Honorable Pillay was acting chair during our strategic planning workshop.
Okay, you could have indicated so that we prepare members. We can work on that in our next meeting.
Okay.
I'm not overruling the decision. It's the proactive one. But now that members were prepared for these minutes, so we can work on that in the next minutes, Honorable Pillay and Honorable Mr. Salmon. Thank you very much.
Chairperson?
Yes, Honorable Pillay.
Yes, Chair. No, we did agree that it must come to the committee because we wanted all of those deliberations to be discussed. And yeah, it shouldn't be for this meeting. It should be for the coming meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Let's deal with that immediately. We finish with the last item. The last minutes, Honorable.
So the next one, Chairperson, is the 23rd of August, 2022.
Yes.
And dealing with the amendments to the electoral amendment bill, again, briefing by the Commission of the Border Management Authority on the implementation of the BMA. And also the matter dealing with the salaries of the Electoral Commission.
Thank you. Can I invite hands for Honorable Pile? See your hand.
Sorry, that was an old hand, but I'll move, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Pile. Seconder.
I second.
Okay. Thank you very much for seconding.
Sorry, can I just record who said that? I didn't see I didn't hear the name of the seconder.
Should be Honorable Bongani Bongo, I think.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Bongo. Any objection? No objection. All minutes are carried, members, for that agreed upon by the committee. There's a review of our decision that we must work on the 10 of the set of minutes, and that was agreed by the last committee when we're dealing with the last meeting, when the chair acting was Honorable Pillay. Will affirm that decision, and in the next meeting, Mr. Salmon and Mr. Matonsi will interact with him. We will deal with the minutes as agreed, 10 per meeting, which suggests that members may need to take collective responsibility on the minutes that we will be interacting with. It is important to indicate your stand on the minutes so that it's clearer on the recording, whether we're abstaining, objecting, or seconding, or proposing. So the standard rules need to assist in dealing with this matter. I assume Mr. Salmon will not deliberate on it because it's a decision that was taken in the last strategic planning, and I will need to, in the next meeting, we'll deal with the 10 set of minutes. The last, yes, is there any other matter around that?
No, Chairperson. We did send the members the 10 minutes, but we'll resend another email with all the remainders for the next meeting.
Okay. Yes, no, that would be perfect. The last matter, members, is that I've received a correspondence. I'm sure, Adams, you have the letter from the minister. I'm not sure I said Eddie must forward it to you.
Yes.
I want members to impress so that we don't take time in our portfolio committee meeting. Unless you want us to table it formally in the committee, this letter. But the indication is that the report that was sent, or the presentation that was sent on consequential amendment, there's a misunderstanding between the teams which are dealing with this, and the minister requests that we must stand off the item and the presentation because, this is a letter, members. We must stand off the this miscommunication around what they've submitted to us as the team. It has not been thoroughly being dealt with, consulted by the minister and his team. And in my assessment, it may appear that is a draft or a wrong presentation to our attention. So the minister requests that we consider to withdraw, which means therefore we will not stand off the item. Then we'll reschedule that item in our meeting when they've given an assurance that they've dealt with this matter. But it's an urgent item, which we don't need to have postpone it for a longer time, given that there are issues at hand that the IEC may need to deal with us. Can I get a sense whether we need to deal with it here, or we can refer it as the first item in the committee? I was just alerting members so that we don't take time on it. Can I get an understanding on that? Okay, I get a sense that, okay, Honorable West, I see your hand, sorry.
Sorry, Chair. Chair, I think it is obviously concerning because next week we have some leave days apparently. So we're only going to get to look at this in 2 weeks' time. I think it's absolutely critical that this doesn't get delayed again. It's really, time is absolutely the essence here, Chairperson. So yeah, we understand this. We understand there was a lot going on in this week, but it's absolutely critical that it isn't delayed any longer than the next meeting.
Okay. I think that will be our approach, members, to, can I get any view?
Chairperson?
Yes, Honorable Pillay?
Yeah, Chair, no, I think it's actually works in our favor, because even with this 2 weeks, they can then be able to finalize it and be able to have the necessary consultations and then be able to present to us. And I think it makes more sense when we receive something that is consolidated. So yeah, I support that we move into that meeting. Thank you.
Okay. No, thanks, members.
Yeah.
Okay, Honorable Pillay?
I believe it was Honorable Rus raising a point, sir.
Okay, Honorable Rus?
Yes. Sorry, Chair, there's just something I forgot. If we can just please have this a few days before that meeting, because it's not something we can receive on the evening.
Yes.
I think that this is something we're going to have to be able to consult with our caucuses and that on it. So if we can please get this not the day before, not the evening before, but a few days before, especially now that we've had these 2 extra weeks, there shouldn't be a problem. This shouldn't land on our desks the night before. So that's just a plea, Chairperson.
Yes, Chairperson, if I can add something when he's done. Do we still have the Chairperson with us?
He is logged in.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Yeah, there he's gone.
He left us.
You can continue, Eddie. Salmon, can make your point.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Yes, so now the other matter is we can perhaps discuss amongst ourselves prior to the meeting whether because there isn't clarity from the legal team whether the committee wants to proceed with the committee bill or an executive bill. I think there was consensus that we needed a committee bill, but wasn't decided on. So we can see whether we want to debate now whether we should proceed with the committee bill, obviously guided by the department, so we can at least use these 2 weeks to start drafting, because as members will know, the president assented to the Electoral Act yesterday, so we can actually start proceeding with the bill in the meantime. So we can just debate now whether we want to at least now decide whether we proceed with a committee bill or an executive bill, just in procedurally, members, and then we'll obviously wait for the chairperson to also guide us.
Can we get a view from other members?
Chairperson?
Yes, Honorable Pillay.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, yeah, we did have that discussion, and I think that maybe we just need to formalize it. But discussions were swaying in the direction of a committee bill because we felt that that process was actually going to be the most effective and the shorter one. Because remember, there was a presentation on both the options. And it was clear that the other option was going to take quite a long time and we may not be ready for elections. So perhaps maybe we formalize that, yeah, and then be able to proceed. Thank you.
Sorry, Acting Chair, just before I proceed, just to indicate that actually it's 5 minutes before the other meeting. So perhaps we'll wait for the chairperson to join us and continue with the debate in the actual meeting, because everybody's waiting to attend the actual formal meeting at 9 o'clock. So we can perhaps have this discussion with the chairperson in the main meeting. Sorry to initiate. I didn't realize we had so little time left.
Let's meet at 9 o'clock in the committee meeting, members. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Mr. Salmon. Thanks very much, honorable members, Minister, and all your team, the officials of the department, the IEC chair, and all your team, Parliamentary Legal Service, in attendance. We want to start by apologizing. We're to run to another area where we're going to have a proper network given the load shedding that has already kicked in, and other members have already are also experiencing the same. We are going to welcome all of you members since the period of the constituency. We hope that you have interacted with the community members, stakeholders on the work of Parliament. We're reconvening to start our work as a portfolio committee. We have noted in the previous the recent days on the issues that have captured national interest, on the escape of Thabo Bester and other related matters. We take note and courage on the work that has currently been done by the Portfolio Committee of Justice and Correctional Services in terms of interacting with this matter. We have, during the recess, interacted with the Department of Home Affairs, the IEC, Border Management Authority, Government Printing Works. In our strategic planning, we've conducted an oversight to both in the Home Affairs and on the site of the new office in mainland. We must commend, Minister, the good work that has been demonstrated in terms of the new offices that have been opening. And I think members have taken interest in terms of the modernization of our new offices' access to the services. We have made an impression that that must be extended to the rural areas for our members of the community to have access to those areas. We have taken note on the, and I think I must appreciate the Deputy Minister for leading the team during the strategic plan and also the oversight that was conducted. There are other issues that we have resolved on, and in our next session, when the matter has been scheduled, we'll interact with the department in terms of the progress and the follow-up on the issues, including the backlog that was practically observed by members, and how we think we must interact with yourselves, the department. We've taken note of the recent, the President assent of the electoral amendment bill yesterday, and we think that both the department and the IEC will then able to deal with the issues that are followed in terms of the consequential amendments that the team has to, the portfolio committee need to interact with, and the Parliamentary Legal Service and the state law advisors. We're also taking note on the responses around that from parties that are interested, and we think we must focus on the issues that are at hand. Members, I've received the letter from the minister on the, if Mr. Adams, you can share the agenda. The minister last night on the document that was sent for our attention in relation to the electoral amendment, consequential amendment bill, and this appear to be miscommunication between the office, but I think the minister will labor in his apology on that there was the document that was sent for our attention to the draft. It was not ready to be sent for our attention. There still has to be consultation with the various stakeholders within the department, the legal service. We've interacted on that with the content advisor and members of the committee. But we have considered that we'll accept that letter with the following. One is that the document or the responses in relation to this item should not take longer, Minister. The department must send for the attention of the committee 3 days before the matter has been tabled before the committee, so that the committee deal with these issues, because it's an urgent matter, so that also we allow the Independent Electoral Commission to interface with the preparation for the elections. So that is the correspondence that we have received. We've shared it with members of the committee. We've made an impression and decided that we'll grant and withdraw the submission that we've made in relation to this matter, which suggests that the item today, item number 4, will stand off, will not be dealt with in the committee. Then in the next committee meeting, we'll then able to deal with the issues. We'll schedule that item once we've interacted at MENCO and yourselves and your legal team and the Parliamentary Legal Service. Can I get any indication on the item? Minister, if you want to comment on it, so that we're able to get members to comment and stand off this item. Minister?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, honorable members. Thank you for the honor. Chairperson, I must once more apologize very, very profusely and thank members for their understanding. The document they received is not even my draft. As you may be aware, it was hectic in the past 2 weeks in the department. I had to lead a search for the issue of Thabo Bester, which was becoming very difficult. But you are also aware that the legal team that drafted this Electoral Amendment Act, which the president has just signed into law yesterday, was busy for the whole week last week in the ZEP issue. So there was no meeting, no consultation, and that draft went, by who, the people who drafted it went out by absolute mistake. It's not our draft. I really can't own it. So I'll ask the team to bear with me, and any day you give me to come and present it, I'll come running, Chairperson. But once more, I apologize profusely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. The apology has been taken and noted. Members, is there any input outside our summary to the issue? Okay, I think we're covered, Minister. Thank you very much. You will just work around that to present the matter. The other issue which we thought it will be dealt with in this meeting, it was ZEP. And as we know that there's a court and the judgment pending, it will be important that we deal with the matter once the judgment has been handed down, so that we don't interfere. The department bring information to our attention, which is subject to that process. So we're not able to present allow the department to deal with that matter. We'll receive update once the judgment has been tabled, and that was our understanding on the matter. Is there any other apology that we need to deal with? Adams, Mr. Salmon, can you share the agenda, please, so that we...
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, I wanted to indicate we haven't dealt with apologies yet. So if I could proceed just quickly, we did get communication for the record from Ms. Molekwa, Ms. Tito, who is attending another meeting. Mr. Tetiana can only join us at 9:30 because of load shedding. The DM sent an apology, and also from Ms. Kanyile. Apology. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, noted. Any other apology? Minister, is there any apology outside the letter?
No, sir. And they've already read the apology of the DM. He's attending a JCPS cluster meeting on our behalf because I had to come to the portfolio committee. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much. Members will now deal with the item number
7, Chairperson.
No. Mr. Adams, you have not updated our request. We have requested the department that we must deal with the issue that relates to the Thabo Bester on the agenda, and that's the item that we must start with. The item of Home Affairs was electoral consequential amendment, and the item on Bester, and number 7. So on item number 4, we'll deal with update in relation to the to the Bester matter, which was requested by members, and we have approved it. If you can update your agenda item, Mr. Salmon.
Yes, Chair.
We'll stand off item number 4, and we'll deal with item number 4 and 7.
Chairperson.
Yeah, I'm coming to you, Chairperson Mayabza.
Thank you. Good morning to you and honorable members. Given that the item we were attending for has been withdrawn, would you kindly permit us to leave the meeting at this point?
Yeah, no, I was coming to that because I wanted the agenda to be concluded. But thanks, Commissioner Mayabza and the CEO and your team, and the state law advisors and the Parliamentary Legal Service, but in particular yourselves, the chair of the IEC and the CEO and all commissioners and the team.
Thank you.
We're now releasing you. Thank you very much, and we apologize for late changes, and I think you understand, given
yes, we do.
Yes, thank you very much, Commissioner Mayabza.
Certainly, thank you so much.
Mr. Salmon, are we ready now?
Yes, Chair. I can share the revised agenda.
Okay. We're now members going to get a update on the matter we have requested. We have communicated with the minister to brief the committee on the matter related to Thabo Bester and the related issues that are residing at the Home Affairs in related to this case and other issues that are relating to this matter. We'll then have deliberations on that, comments, and after that, we'll deal with the issues on annual business plan by our content advisor, Mr. Salmon. We'll then interact with that, and then we'll stand off the items, and that will be agenda item for today. At this moment, can I invite the minister to present the matter that is requested to update the portfolio committee on? Thank you, Minister.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. Honorable members will realize that we held a press conference on Friday last week to try and clarify the country. I think it's befitting that we clarify members of the committee so that they can ask their own questions, because every day this saga is developing, every day sort of bringing new things to the fore. But Chairperson, regardless of the fact that we had a press conference, because it was not a presentation to the portfolio committee, I would like to present to you. I did not write any presentation which I can put on the screen. I'll just talk, but I'll be as clear as possible. Chairperson, as you know, as a department, we are the custodians of identities of people. Our entry point on this Bester issue was when we heard that somebody has been in a cell and he was supposed to be Bester, and later on it was discovered that Bester has escaped, but Home Affairs has written a death certificate for that particular person. So our interest was whose death certificate it is and how was it written, you know, under what name, etc. Now, that's where we started investigation, but Chair, I will come later to this issue of a death certificate, which was supposed to have been written for a person found dead in that cell. I'll come back to it. Let me then continue. From there, we actually wanted to know, who is this Bester? Now, as you know, Chair, we have got 3 databases of people who are found within the borders of the Republic. The first one is the NPR, or National Population Register, which registered all the births, the marriages, the deaths, the IDs, and the passport for South Africans only. And is deposited on the NPR together with biometrics of South Africans, which reside in an electronic system called HANIS, which is also stored together with the National Population Register. So we started there to check for Bester. The second database is called NIIS, or National Immigration Information System. That one registered all the asylum seekers and refugees, but I must emphasize, only those who made their presence in the country known. Obviously, those who did not do so are regarded as illegal immigrants. They will appear on no system at all because we don't even know them. So NIIS only registered refugees and asylum seekers because they came to us and say, I'm here, and started applying. But unfortunately, that system does not record their birth, their marriage and death as the NPR does for South Africans. It doesn't. And that is what we are in the process of changing now. When we are moving to a new system, you remember after when we presented to you about ABIS, we reported about this matter. Then the third system is called VAS, or VAS, the Visa Adjudication System, that records anybody who in South Africa who came via a visa or any of the permits. And as you know, we've got 17 visas and permits altogether in South Africa. So we checked in those systems. On the NPR, we found 2 Thabo Besters. One is a 19-year-old boy. We immediately excluded him from the search because clearly he's not the subject of our interest. The second one is a 40-year-old man. We traced him to Ratanda in Heidelberg, and we paid him a visit. And we found that he has already presented himself to police. He went to the police station and said, I've heard over the media that a Thabo Bester is being looked for. And here I am. And they looked at him and checked and found that no, he's not the person they are looking for. So we still did not know exactly anything about Thabo Bester. We went to check him on the other systems, the NIIS and VAS. He was definitely not there. But then we have heard over the media that sometimes he uses the name of Nkwana, TK Nkwana or Thapelo Nkwana. So we started searching for Thapelo Nkwana, and we found 16 of them on the National Population Register, but 9 of them were kids. 1 was a woman, so we excluded those. The other 6 who were left, we got all their photos from Hanis, and none of them look like this person who is in the newspapers. So we also discarded that search and went on to search again this Thapelo Nkwana. On the NIIS and the VAS, we found several people from other countries using that same name, and but their photos, because we have got them, their photos also did not match at all. So we were back to square A about exactly who Thabo Bester is. We were about to conclude then that he must be an illegal immigrant in the country because he's found in no system. But then we heard about this lady who said is the mother, and we went searching for her. She was adamant, very adamant, that she's the mother of this gentleman called Thabo Bester, And she even gave us the date of birth and said the birth took place at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. We actually rushed there and went into the archives of Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital 36 years ago. And indeed, we found the record of Thabo Bester's birth, which took place on the 13th of June, 1986 at 12:15. So all the records are there. And the lady who gave birth to him is a lady called Macy Maria Bester, which is the lady we visited in Ikuruleni, who said is the mother. The record definitely shows that he's the mother. But there were several questions that were difficult, because when you, as I said, when you search on the National Population Register, you found only 2 Besters, which we have checked. So we were surprised then about Maria Bester, who gave birth to Thabo Bester, and we started investigating further. And this is what we found. An old lady by the name of Lina Bester, we estimate, because it's not there on the records, we were just discovering as we were searching. An old lady by the late of Maria Bester, we estimate that she was born between 1910 and 1920. We might be wrong. We made that estimation from her 2 daughters. Her first daughter was born in 1938, and her name was Ntwage Johanna Magagula. Because she was married to Magagula, but actually her maiden surname was Bester. She's the daughter of Lina Bester. The second daughter, who's still alive, was born in 1940, and she's a Mabaso, because she was married to Mabaso, but her maiden surname was also Bester. Let me leave her aside for the second bit and go to the lady Magagula, who has since passed on. The lady Magagula gave birth to 4 kids. One of them is Macy Bester. That means Bester's mother. She gave birth to her in 1965 and gave birth to 3 other siblings of Macy Bester, who are not of interest in this. Let me leave them, but one was born, Macy Bester was born in 1965, but the first born in this family was 1955, then another one in 1957, and another one in 1962. So Bester's mother, with Macy, in 1965, is the last born in the family. Now, let me leave her siblings. Bester's mother gave birth to 4 kids, the firstborn of which is Bester, as I said, in 1986, the second one in 88, then the third one in 94, and the last born in 2000. And the 2 are alive. The one born in 88, a lady, unfortunately has since passed. So there are still 2 siblings that are alive. And obviously Bester is one of them. So the children of Macy Bester, 3 of them are alive. That includes Bester. Now the question is, why are they not all on the National Population Register? Their birth is not registered. Their records, I mean, they never took a license. They never got married. They never took a passport. They are appearing nowhere. And this is the explanation from Macy. She says her mother, this Magagule lady, born in 1938, was working in the kitchens and the farms at the same time, doing kitchen work and farm work. She was never allowed to leave the place, so she could not take her anywhere near Home Affairs to register Thabo's mother with this Macy. So Macy was also not registered anywhere whatsoever until she was 37 years of age. And she turned 37 in 2002. In May that year, when she turned 37, the mother died, that the Magagule lady who was not allowed to leave a farm to take her children to Home Affairs. She passed on. Then the aunt, that means the younger sister, the one I said was born in 1940, she took over. She took these kids over. She took over, especially Macy. as her own child, and 2 months after the mother's death, she rushed to Home Affairs to register her. That's how Macy registered for the first time in 2002. But she was never registered as a Bester. She was registered as a Mabaso after the aunt. In other words, the aunt did a sort of our own version of African adoption, where you just take your sister's children as yours and even change their names without following the procedures of adoption. I'm sure you're aware that in the farms and rural areas, such type of practice arrived. But this is what happened here. So she registered Macy Maria Bester as Macy Maria Mabaso. And that's why we're not able to find any Bester on the records. Then when this lady was registered in 2002, she also registered all the kids, all the 3 kids except Thabo Bester. And all the 3 kids were registered as Mabaso. That's why we could not find them on the National Population Register, because we were looking for Besters. They were all registered as Mabaso, all of them, including the one who passed away. Now the question is, why was Bester not among them who were registered when the aunt all took them to become Mabasos and registered them with Home Affairs? And the answer was that Thabo had just disappeared that very same year. Nobody knew where he was. The mother did not know, so she couldn't come to Home Affairs to register a child who has disappeared. So Bester remained unregistered. The mother then gave us the name of the school which he attended somewhere in the south of Johannesburg, which we rushed to. And indeed, we found that is true. Thabo Bester registered in that school on the 14th of January, 1997, when he was 11 years, meaning he started school for the first time at 11 years. He registered without any ID. They just used the date of birth, but that date of birth coincides. The date of birth we found at the school, it coincides directly with the date of birth we found in the labor ward of Baragwanath Hospital, 13th of June, 1986. That's how she registered. She was given an enrollment number, admission number 5126, and then she continued. Now, the issue here, which we are still busy trying to resolve, is who brought Thabo to the school, whether the aunt or the mother and all that. No, he was brought by a gentleman called Robert Ferreira, who told the school that he's a guardian. And up to so far, we have not been able to trace him and give him a visit. I hope maybe she will hear over the media that we just want to ask a few questions. But he's the one who brought Thabo to the school. Thabo attended there until he was in grade 5 at this primary school. He was in grade 5, and the school says he disappeared that year. Exactly the year the mother told us he last saw Thabo. Thabo disappeared. But remember, during this time, we believe the Rob Ferreira might have been the employer of the mother, this mother, Magagula, who died, because he took over Thabo and stayed with him when he was still 1 year old. He took over from the mother and said, "You are too young to take care of a child." And he took over. So he disappeared from her and disappeared from this school where he was taken to by anybody else. And we suspect the mother, the grandmother staying with Thabo, couldn't take him to school because we told you she was not allowed to leave the farm, according to the report by Macy Magagule, the daughter or the mother of Thabo. So we think that's why he was taken to school by somebody else. So that being the case, Chairperson, we thought we have eventually established exactly who Thabo Bester is. Now come the issue of passports, Chairperson, which was reported that they have got multiple passports, which were found in Tanzania. Chairperson, Thabo Bester was carrying only one passport on his person in the name of Tom Williams Kelly, and it's a United States passport. We don't know whether it's authentic or not, but it's a US passport. That's the only passport he was carrying. And according to our records, this passport was never used in any of the 72 ports of entry, not the 53 land ports, not the 11 international airports or the 8 seaports. It was used nowhere, this passport. Now there's this lady, Nantiba Magudumela, who was of no interest to us in Home Affairs until he was found with Thabo in Tanzania. We wanted to know where she is, who she is. And of course, we found her everything on the National Population Register. There's nothing untoward about her. She has been given IDs and all that. Now come the passports. Why she was said to be holding multiple passports. She was found in possession of 3 passports. Chair, the first passport is definitely hers. Home Affairs issued a passport for the first time in 2007. It expired in 2017 because adult passports take 10 years, but children's passport 5 years. She's an adult, so her passport took 10 years to expire, which is in 2017. She came to Home Affairs to take another passport, which was issued again in 2017. It is due to expire in 2027. So it's still a valid, legal, legitimate passport, and she was found carrying it in Tanzania. Did she ever use it? The last time she used it, Chairperson, this very passport she was found in Tanzania with, the last time she used it, according to our records, is at Beit Bridge, border post, on the 9th of May, 2009. That's last year. And 3 days later, on the 12th of May, she used it again to enter OR Tambo Airport en route from Bulawayo, where she flew in.
Sorry, Minister. You're saying the last time it was 2009, which was last year?
No, 2022. Did I say 2009?
Yes.
My apologies. My apologies.
Okay.
Yes. The last time she used it is 2022 on the 9th, not 2009, on the 9th of May, 2022. She left via Beit Bridge, and then she came back via OR Tambo International Airport from Bulawayo. That was the last time that she ever used that passport. As I say, it is still valid. So she was carrying it. The other 2 passports are also legitimate, very legitimate. They are not illegal, but they don't belong to her. They belong to a doctor called Mereke Maria Nchani. And Mereke Maria Nchani was given a passport for the first time in 2012. Naturally, it will expire in 2022 because of the 10-year period I've told you. But in 2019, 3 years before the expiry, she went to police and wrote an affidavit that this passport has been stolen. She doesn't know where it is because it has been stolen. And she wants to apply for another passport. Obviously, the police deposed that affidavit, allow her to depose that affidavit. She took it to Home Affairs. That's still in 2019 to get a new passport. And we issued it. That passport is still to expire in 2029. So she's still it's still valid and very legitimate in 2029. But then on the 27th of March this year, after this story broke out, she went again to the police to tell them that the passport issued to me in 2019, in 2019, which is still due to expire in 2029, I have given it to 2 people. I've given it to a lady called Dr. Nantiba Magudumane, also a gentleman called TK Ngwana. I gave it to them because we have got a project together in the US. They were going to apply for me what she calls a work citizenship in the US. I don't know about that work citizenship, Chairperson, but people who know about it says it's not possible to send somebody to get that for you. You have got to go on your own. But he wrote on the affidavit under oath that she gave the passport to them, and she's coming to police because she has heard that these 2 people she has given a passport to have escaped from the country, and police are looking for them, and she doesn't know what will happen to her passport. So that affidavit was deposed. I think it's on the 27th of March. But on the 6th of April, she then came to Home Affairs to apply for another passport using this affidavit. And that passport has not been collected yet. So that passport is still in possession of Home Affairs. It was never given to her. Now, the passport that was issued in 2012 obviously expired last year in 2022. And the one given in 2019, which is still valid, were found on the person of Dr. Nandiba Magudumana in Tanzania. But the passports were never used, at least not this year. The last time Dr. Mereke Nchani used this passport, which he later gave to the people I've mentioned, was in December. Last year, she went to Seychelles and back. That was the last time. So these passports were never used in any of our ports of entry, in any way whatsoever, and we can vouch for that. But those are the passports that I've just mentioned. Now, let me come to the issue, because it's in the media, also in the media, of the death certificate, which I said I'll visit to later. A pathologist in the Free State was asked immediately when this burned body was discovered in the cell in which was occupied by Thabo Bester. The pathologist did a post-mortem, and obviously he thought he's doing a post-mortem on Thabo Bester. So he issued a form, DHA 1663. That form is issued by doctors. It is the only authority that allows Home Affairs to issue a death certificate. Without a DHA 1663, no official in Home Affairs is authorized to issue a death certificate, because that DHA 1663 is the source of all our death certificate, because a doctor is now telling us that somebody has passed on. And as you know, we as Home Affairs cannot decide that somebody has passed on. We don't know anything about that. So this form was issued, but it had no ID number whatsoever. As we told you, Bester never had an ID number. Remember, it was supposed to be Bester's body, which the pathologist was doing a post-mortem on. So he issued it without any ID number, the DHA 1663, and sent it to us. When Home Affairs is faced with this type of situation, they issue a death certificate, but it's handwritten. It never appears on the National Population Register. It's never recorded electronically. It's handwritten document, which is just filed. We do that all the time, especially with people from other countries who are illegal but happen to pass on here, because they can't just be thrown away. A death certificate is written but filed separately. And this is what has happened here. Now, as you know, Thabo is alive. This death certificate belongs to nobody now, because the person it was written under is still alive. So it is null and void. It no longer functions. Now, let me come to the last issue, which is quite recent, because I had people mention it on social media about the issue of bringing Thabo Bester here on what is called a luxury flight, and that we should not have done so. We should have used a police aircraft, which was already there in Tanzania, or at least an army aircraft. I want to explain this thoroughly, Chairperson. That the plane that went to Tanzania to fetch Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandiba Magudumana was not hired by police. It was hired by us in Home Affairs, because this is what happened. The Tanzanians said they've decided that, checking all the details about Thabo and Nandiba, they've opted on deportation, not extradition or any other system. They've opted on deportation. And when a person is deported to your country of origin, they are handed only to immigration officials in that country, not any other authority, strictly the immigration officials via the ambassador of that particular country. And the Tanzanians said they are not prepared to hand over Thabo to police. They want immigration officials from Home Affairs in South Africa. When police left on Sunday to Tanzania, the other Sunday, not Sunday, 2 days ago, when they left, we asked them to put somebody from Home Affairs who could identify people. But that gentleman who went with them is not from immigration. And the Tanzanians said, we want immigration officials here. So we, as you know, we don't have an airplane like the police and the army. And so our only option was to fly commercially. And we found that if we have to do that, we needed to fly a team of 14 people overall. Each one had a role in this whole issue. And we had to fly them out. And we discovered that then they must fly to Dar es Salaam. From Dar es Salaam, they must hire minibuses, at least 2 minibuses, and drive 600 kilometers to Arusha. And when they arrive in Arusha, must drive another 60 kilometers to Mount Kilimanjaro, where they will find Thabo Bester and Nandiba. And we looked at the logistics and found that, no, it can't work. So we decided to use the method we use when we deport our own people from Lindela to other countries. Members of the committee know from Lindela, we hire buses or kumbis for neighboring countries. But for far away countries, we are forced to charter a flight. And we've got a database in Treasury, which is already pre-qualified. And we just have to ask them, a database of companies that own chartered flights, chartered aircraft. So we asked any company that could give us an airplane that can carry 14 people, and which will be able to get landing rights and all the documentation on their own without the help from the state in less than 24 hours. Because as you know, South Africans were eager to know whether this deportation is taking place. And there are companies who responded. The last one which we took was the cheapest at 1.4 million rand. It was the cheapest of them all. And we opted for that. We never asked anybody that we want a luxury flight, as everybody is saying. It is the cheapest flight we could get, as one of those who responded to our request for proposals, that we want somebody who can do that. And that's why then the 14 people got in and they came back. Now, they came back as our law enforcement officer under immigration. The head of law enforcement in immigration is the one who led that team to go and fetch him, and Tanzanian presented to him, and our embassy got him first and given to him to officials. Chairperson, this matter is not a small matter of why they are refusing to hand over to police. It's not just Tanzanian getting funny. When somebody has run to another country and is handed over to police, that thing is called rendition internationally. And the Tanzanians said, under no conditions do they want to be blamed or accused of rendition. So they can't give Thabo Bester and Nandiba, whether to the army and the police, and they can't use any of their transport modes. That means any transport mode that is owned by the army or police, they are not prepared to use it. That's why they insisted Home Affairs must find the mode of transport and come and collect them. You may remember in 2010 or 2009, honorable members, there was a head of one of the law enforcement agencies, I think it's the Hawks, who was accused of rendition and even removed from his work because he took some Zimbabweans, or is alleged to have taken some Zimbabweans and handed them directly, who were illegal in South Africa, and handed them directly to Zimbabwean police instead of the immigration officials. So it's a matter that had precedence, and that's why we had to do what we did, Chairperson. And the last issue, we see on social media that police or us in Home Affairs who went to fetch Thabo must have plundered, because Thabo in court, when he appeared for the first time, raised the issue of that he wants to see the documents which were used to deport him from Tanzania. He wants to see the numbers that were written there. And I want to explain that issue, Chairperson. This is what happened. And I want to give a very simple example. Chairperson, if you visit any country in Europe, and there you get marked, and your bag is taken, which carry all your documents, passports, IDs, bank cards, everything, and you are there in that country, let's say maybe it's London, what must happen to you? Because you need to come home and start life afresh, but you are there in the wilderness. What should happen is that you go to the South African embassy, they issue with what is called an emergency travel certificate. The emergency travel certificate is not an emergency passport, as people usually like say. There's nothing called an emergency passport, by the way. We give you an emergency travel certificate, which is a handwritten document. We write whatever information you give us there about yourself, because we have got no other document to check. You give us that information, you take it into the flight and you fly home. When you land, that document has got no use whatsoever. It comes to an end. But whatever information you have given us on that document, we will check that information and its authenticity after you land. So Thabo Bester did not have a passport. So when we bring him here, we can't be like him and bring him illegally across borders without any document. So he was issued by our embassy in Dar es Salaam with an emergency travel document. And the information on that emergency travel document was provided by him. He even provided them a number. Because our official was there, he knew very well that that number can't be correct because we didn't find Thabo in any of our documents. But then if it's not correct, could he say, no, you are giving us a wrong number, we won't fly you back to South Africa. No, he agreed to fly him back, knowing very well that the number he gave was lying once more, as he always does. But when they arrived at Lanseria, they immediately went into the system to check that number. And indeed, as expected, found that it does not exist, but then did not record it on the movement control system as an ordinary movement. They recorded it as an incident in the record book for police purposes. That means an incident that somebody we flew from Tanzania gave us a wrong number, and we gave him an emergency travel certificate on that wrong number, and we know now that the number is wrong. We have checked everywhere, which means what? It is also a charge, as far as I'm concerned, is defeating the ends of justice to give legitimate law enforcement officers a wrong number deliberately and come and tell in court that we are brought by a wrong number when you are the one who gave it. Then comes the issue of fingerprints, Chairperson, which I know you are going to ask. I said Thabo does not have any document or anything with Home Affairs. That will include a fingerprint. We are the custodians of the largest database of fingerprints, more than police and corrections, because the fingerprints with police are for those who were arrested. The fingerprints in corrections are those who were sentenced, but the fingerprints in Home Affairs are for those who ever took an ID, got married, passport, or even died. The only fingerprints we don't have are for those who only have a birth certificate on Home Affairs, but never took an ID because they are still too young. You'll remember, Chairperson, that we are actually proposing that people must start taking IDs at the age of 10. It is to help us in situation like this. That bill is I've signed it last week. It's about to go out so that we start discussing it. We're asking South Africans to allow us to pass a law that people must take an ID at 10. So be that as it may, let me come back to this issue of IDs. When Thabo Bester was arrested, Correctional Services took a fingerprint on him. The police also have got fingerprints on him. We are the only ones in Home Affairs who never had fingerprints. But when they were taken from Tanzania, those fingerprints were taken. And the fingerprints in corrections in Bloemfontein and all the other jails Thabo has ever been to, and the fingerprints in the possession of police after arrest, and the fingerprint we got in Tanzania are definitely of the same person. And they are attributed to a gentleman called Thabo Bester. So that's the issue of fingerprints. Chairperson, let me stop there and allow members to ask questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for detailed brief or update on the matter. We will advise you, Minister, to compile a the report as you have presented for our record and referral to members. If you can send it to our attention later in the week, so that it's a detailed brief that the committee has interest on, and I think you'll appreciate that we conduct oversight on some of the issues, which also include this one. So we appreciate your detailed brief, and we understand that you are requested at the last minutes to update the committee on this issue. So we'll appreciate that you compile a detailed brief report for the members. I'm going to invite members to comment on the matter. I have Honorable Ruos, Honorable Khwase, Honorable Pillay, Honorable Lizel, and Honorable Modise Mtsa. I'm not sure if there's any other member who joined late as per the apologies, Mr. Salman. You'll advise the apologies that said members will join late as a result of the load shedding. In that order, Honorable Ross.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the Minister for the detailed feedback. First of all, there's obviously a few concerns, and I think we start at the point where we say that we have a situation where what was supposedly Thabo Bester's body was found in a cell, but it was somebody else's. And then we also have a situation where thousands of South African children can't register their births without a DNA test to prove their parentage. Now, in this case, we say that the Thabo Bester from Baragwanath is the same person as the Thabo Bester from Laerskool Dani Taron. But surely there must be a possibility, especially given the situation we find ourselves in and how we got here, that those two Thabo Besters or whatever could be different people. And so my question to the Minister is, surely you insist on DNA tests for so many of these poor South Africans to prove the parentage. Surely a DNA test is needed here between the mother and Thabo Bester to verify that Thabo Bester is indeed the son, that the person that went to Laerskool Dani Taron is the same person as the Thabo Bester from Baragwanath. And if one already has the DNA of the mother, we need to get the DNA of Thabo Bester and verify that that is indeed the case, and then document them accordingly like anybody else. So there seems to be some form of special treatment here where we say, well, because there's this circumstantial evidence and that circumstantial evidence, then we'll just take their word for it. Somebody that's already swapped themselves for somebody else, we'll just take their word for it that, yeah, the mother says, this is my child, etc., and we're just going to accept it. And I think we need to insist on that. If ordinary citizens in this country need to prove their parentage and that to have their births registered late, this shouldn't be a special case. Then secondly, my understanding of these processes and that is that we have a situation where you would go to prison and you'd either have an ID or identity of some sort, or you'd be caught without any documentation. And I want to understand here, what is the gap that we're missing here in terms of a prisoner being treated as an undocumented migrant or a prisoner being treated as a South African citizen that doesn't have an ID. So I'm still a little bit unclear on that in this case, because my understanding from speaking to persons is that it was a time, and especially my understanding is that he was first convicted at 17. So if the mother was looking to register all the children at 16, and he was convicted at 17, that's very close by. So how did it happen that there was no process, but we then have this gap because in this case, not on the National Population Register, but also not necessarily treated as an undocumented migrant. So how many persons are in this situation in our prisons today? And what is the mechanism by which we deal with this? That we don't have a number of prisoners that are undocumented, and depending on who they are, or clearly this person had some funding and had some power in that regard, how they don't get treated differently. So we can just get clarification on how this worked in this case. How did the person get to prison without an ID, and it was just left that way, and they were not treated as an undocumented migrant? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Roos, for your contributions. Honorable Lokhose.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, colleagues. Chair, mine is not much of questions, but I would like to add on what Honorable Roos has just raised, to say that now that this Thabo Bester has a criminal case, is it possible for the Department of Home Affairs to summon Thabo Bester and mother to go and do the DNA tests? That's the only question I have, but my comment would be just to congratulate the Minister and the Department for the spelling that they are honestly doing. One have been going through the interviews that the Minister has been undergoing throughout ever since the first day that they started making rounds in social media. And one can easily say the Minister is on his toes, and honestly speaking, on behalf of the department, is doing a very good job. So, and Chair, one must really appreciate that ever since the beginning of this case, one has been reading through the lines to say there are a lot of loopholes, and there has been a lot of misunderstandings and questions that one has been having regarding especially the Home Affairs issued. And today,
I think she got cut. Honorable Lokhose should come back. Honorable Play.
Thank you very much, Chair. Firstly, Chair, I think I must join other members and colleagues in appreciating the response from DHA, in particular the Minister, and how the matter was dealt with. I think it goes a long way for us because we are able to deal with issues almost immediately. But there's two things that for me, I think is important. One is the body that was burned, Chairperson. I know that that death certificate is null and void because it may have been a handwritten certificate since there was no ID number. And it means that that person who had passed on would require a death certificate. And I think it's important that that must be resolved, particularly because that death has to be registered. And I think it's important it must be. And obviously, you know, from reading and listening to the reports and the police, you know, that Dr. Nandipa had taken 3 bodies. And so you can be able to trace which one of those 3 bodies were actually burned, if indeed it was one of those 3. Then the second one is just to also say that, and again, I think it results from what may have been an LRB, and then he was never registered, and it doesn't appear on our national population registration. Register, sorry, that indeed something has to be done in order for him to get an identification in terms of being registered. But again, there isn't a law that compels you to say that you have to. But I think it's going to be important, particularly because there's going to be a case and a trial, and he's going to be facing all of those charges, that there has to be some kind of. So I support what members are saying. Perhaps we need to look at how they're compelled to be registered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Pillay. Honorable Lizel.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much to our Minister for this comprehensive report. I think I would support the colleagues in their call for DNA tests or DNA testing to be done. But Honourable Minister, I must say to you that, of course, we do appreciate that you kept the nation abreast and people were very thankful for the information that you provided to them. However, I must say I'm quite shocked to learn this morning that you had to spend 1.4 million rand to go and fetch these two fugitives in Tanzania. Firstly, because we as a portfolio committee know your budget limitations and constraints and what you have to do with that budget. And also it wasn't your fault that Thabo Bester escaped from prison. So really also what then baffles the mind is why would you need 14 people to go and repatriate two individuals in Tanzania? And maybe if you could just shed some light on what these 14 individuals, what their different roles and responsibilities were, that would have necessitated you then to spend the 1.4 million rand to charter this jet. Because I was just looking now, I do hear that Arusha is very far, but if I had to catch a flight this morning on Kenyan Airways to get to Dar es Salaam, it will cost me 6,500 rand. And then surely I can take a bus or, another flight to Arusha, and it wouldn't work out to 100,000 rand per person to ferry our officials there and back. So, yeah, I'm sure you did your best in trying to get the best quote, but my question also is, will you be engaging the Department of Justice and Correctional Services to get some of this money back, or even from G4S? Then I saw an interview where you mentioned, I don't know if you were referring to the passports that Dr. Nandipa had in her possession, but I think I heard you saying that these passports were not stamped. And then you made a remark about high-ranking officials that could be involved in these passports not being stamped. And again, I think it raises the question of our borders, them being so porous, and the implication of that for the safety and security of our nation. And whether you will be looking into, if they were indeed not stamped, whether you'll be looking into what transpired with regards to our officials at the borders, considering that we do have the BMA currently in operation. I think the colleagues have spoken about this, but I think then clearly if Mr. Thabo Bester could exist in South Africa for so many years without an ID number, and even going through the prison system, being incarcerated without an ID number, there's clearly a need for the Department of Home Affairs to focus on documenting the millions of undocumented persons in South Africa, both foreign nationals, and those that are incarcerated. And I would like to know if you've got a plan in that regard. Then, Minister, I know there's been another matter in the media which doesn't relate to the issue of the Besters, but also during this period of Thabo Bester escaping, there was another issue that you were involved in, and that was the issue of the Gupta brothers and them not being granted Dubai not granting our extradition request. You mentioned there that Athol and Rajesh are still in possession of their South African passports, as they are still South African citizens. And I wanted to know what prevents us from cancelling those passports and flagging them so that they're not able to travel with those. Or I just don't understand why that's not something we can do. And then finally, I'm going to just say what people have been saying around I know it's a matter that you want to deal with later, Chairperson, around the ZEP matter, and it's fine, we will get a briefing on that later. But I think I must share the Minister's concerns, which you also raised in the media, that I do think that the legal team representing the Minister has let us down. And I would like to know whether we are represented by state legal advisors or it's a team that the Minister assembled himself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zell, for your contributions. Honorable Lekhwase, are you back? I think you have Yes, Honorable Yazin.
Yeah, please note me after the next speaker so that I can make my own contribution.
Oh, you've joined. Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. Noted. Thanks for letting us that you've joined. And thanks that you've now recovered from a hospital. Honorable Lekhwase.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me just pass because the speakers that came after me has really covered me. Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm sorry for cutting off. I don't know what the challenge was.
No, it's network. We understand. Thank you very much, Honorable Lekhwase. Honorable Yazin.
No, thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to the leadership of the department, the Minister, and all colleagues that are present. Well, it's because of load shedding that we are unable to enter some of these meetings of virtual. So I'm sorry that I could not enter on time. It's someone's creation, so I'm sure we can argue about that on a different level. Chair, well, the country is embarrassed, and from where I'm seated, the system that we control as Home Affairs has humiliated the country, and I'm shocked to hear some of our colleagues, members of parliament, saying that we must clap hands for the minister for doing his job, because we have a situation in our hands. And I think some of the members raised it when I listened here. We have a person who humiliates the system. And there's no response in terms of how did we get to this? And how many of these people that are like Thabo Bester who are out there continuously committing criminal activities across the country, doing the same thing that these guys do. But we must come to a portfolio committee and say, no, we must clap hands for you, Minister. I won't clap hands for you. You are paid to do this, and that is what you are appointed to do. Unfortunately, your inability and the department's inability to manage the issues related to from birth up until the last stages is what is putting us into the mess we're in today. And it's what probably you are going to say you inherited, but you had all the time to correct the situation. But our concern, or my concern, Chair, is we don't know how many of these people are out there. And every time, Thabo Bester's case is popular because of probably of his relations that he has with whoever he has it with. There are cases, and some of these people who are doing worse than what Thabo has done. And they are not flagged. We do not see them. But it's not, of course, it's not because of the department that they are not flagged. The issue with the department is him running around the country, not being documented from the very youngest age. In the offices of Home Affairs, if you go to all the offices, I said this in the committee that we were in Pretoria or in Gauteng. I said, we have long queues that we are unable to deal with. And when we investigate, some of us, we pick up the main issue is the issue of bed registration. Because the process is so tedious. I'm not saying that we must short-circuit the process, but the way it is done, if you are born in Cape Town and you are not registered in Cape Town, the department might correct me if I'm wrong. If you are born in Cape Town and you are not registered and moved to Eastern Cape, when you are old and you are looking to be registered, there has to be something that gets collected from Grooteskier if you are born in Grooteskier to confirm that you were indeed born in the country. It's a long process. The queues that you see everywhere, most of them, it's mainly because people are trying to register whoever that they are trying to register. The Thabo Bester situation is just a tip of what probably is still to come if we do not clap for wrong things. I want to call on all of us in the committee to stop clapping for wrong things. There's nothing that the minister has done right or the department has done right. This is a mess. It has exposed the country. It is making us look like fools out there if you look at how the social media and the public is viewing South Africa in respect to these issues, especially how we control our situation here in the country. So I wanted to just comment on that, Chair. I'm sure when we get the report that the minister was speaking to, because I found him, I think, on the last 5 minutes. When we get the report, we'll be able to further engage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tejana, for your contributions. Honorable Mudisimja.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me also take this opportunity and join the other members who would have applauded the response from the Home Affairs in ensuring that Thabo Bester and
his co-accused, Dr. Nandip, are brought back in the country. Of course, other issues on how they were brought back would have been a public concern. And indeed, it is because the public would have not been informed of the processes in relation with the cooperation with other countries. And now that the minister has been able to explain the challenges that would have been there with the Tanzanian, citing that they will not allow the SAPS or the correctional services to fetch these fugitives from their country itself. It deemed correctly that the Home Affairs then had to take over. And indeed, we applaud the Home Affairs for doing that, because the criminals are brought back into our country and they will face the might of the law. Chairperson, we may also not act in denial that we are coming from an apartheid era, which system was very difficult, and it made it difficult for many Black in majorities to can access systems of Home Affairs. Many of our people that suffered during that era would have not been able to get or register their children for birth. Now we find ourselves currently that we are having a lot of adults who are roaming around the streets with no birth certificates, or who are not registered in our system. And I think, Minister, however, having said that, maybe it's high time we also find a way in the system of ensuring that there's some sort of registration or records that is being kept for any child that has been born in our shores, to ensure that we curb these challenges we are currently facing of having people who are born or unidentified, whether or not they are South Africans, roaming around in our streets. Secondly, Chair, what is also of concern for me, it is the registration of the death certificate with no ID. The minister has made mention that the pathologist would have also done its work and written that document that is issued to Home Affairs to can grant that certificate without an ID. For me, it's concerning that he even says it is handwritten. Now, I want to understand from the minister that a handwritten document from Home Affairs of a death, is it taken as a legal document that is registered on the system, or is just a system? It is just a document issued to families so that they can claim their bodies and then conduct their burials. But is it a legal document that is recognized in our system? I also want to agree with the members fully that in a DNA testing between Thabo Bester and his mother may need to be conducted in order to confirm that indeed this is the Thabo that this mother who claims that it's his son, indeed it's his child. What will be the procedure moving forward as well, Minister, in ensuring that now that Thabo has been identified and the mother has come forth, and should the DNA also be concluded and it confirms that indeed Thabo Bester is a child to this mother, will there be a process, understanding that there is no law on it enforcing a person to register their birth and subsequently take an ID? Will then be what then will be the procedure in ensuring that this Thabo Bester is registered in our NPR? The issue of the passport, lastly, Chair, that were found with Dr. Makudumana, which the minister then confirms that those 3 passports are legit, and that the other 2 passports actually belonged to the other doctor, who at first went and to the police and claimed that her first passport was gotten lost, and she was issued then by then with a second passport. This very same doctor goes to Home Affairs again with an affidavit claiming that she has given her passport to these 2 members. I am worried that why is it that our system, by merely a person having an affidavit, finding it so easy to can want to issue a second passport. Well, the first passport, it's understandable. You say your passport got lost. It's given. Now you come again, you want to apply for another passport, taking into considerations of the gaps and the crimes that are being conducted in and out of our country. Why is it that these members, this doctor was then issued with another passport? I understand that Home Affairs would have then withheld it without issuing. But the second passport, again, it is inexistent, actually. It is in the system. It's a matter of this doctor having had not accessed it or Home Affairs have not issued to her. But it was printed. She was then allocated with a second passport. I think for me, it is worrying. There must be some limitations on how often can a person in a period of time can apply for a passport. And when it gets lost, there must be some sort of a ruling that you cannot apply for a passport for a certain period of time after you've been issued with a passport that would have been lost or for some other reasons. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much for your contributions, Honorable Mudisemza, and all members for comments and questions that have been raised on the presentation made by the Minister. Minister, there are two issues which I want to also raise for your attention. Now that we're exposed to the issues in relation to the society that is grounded in our correctional services, does the department has a sense of moving in to establish whether, because you may find that most of the criminals that are grounded there, they don't have these legitimate documents. And I want to get your sense as to what is the, moving forward, your interaction with the correctional services in terms of this documentation. The second one is that you commissioned a team that was led by former Director General Lubisi to conduct an assessment in terms of the corrupt activities that are related. And I think that report came clear that there's an organized syndicate outside the system and within the system. And I want to get an impression from your side. What is an attitude in relation to this matter? Because it highlighted some of the critical areas that got be interfered within your system. I think I'm riding on the point that was raised by members. Honorable Rizal, on an area, a possibility of some of your intelligence system that continue to undermine what the Lubisi has indicated. In relation to the matter that Honorable Mudis has raised, of continuous issuing of passport without verified process, and how this Dr. Nandipa has conducted herself with your department. On all the issues, we thought that you will then able to comment on that, Minister. Minister?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me start with the first question by Honorable Ruos about DNA, which is quite a correct question and a very important one. But I want to correct certain things before coming to the DNA, which he has said, which are not necessarily correct. That we forced poor people to give us a DNA all the time before we register them. We actually don't do that most of the time, Chairperson. The rule which we have which we have informed the committee about is that our policy is that children must register within the first 30 days of birth. That is the source of any human being at birth, to see who your mother is, where you were born, and all that. After that, you don't need anything else, especially with the mother. The DNAs are usually wanted for fathers because we usually don't know them, but the mother right at the source. It is for this reason, Chairperson, that we have started opening Home Affairs offices in hospitals around the country. and we've already opened in 161 hospitals up to so far. We started this process in 2020, and unfortunately we were stopped dead on our heels by COVID. We have restarted again. We are establishing Home Affairs to avoid what is called an LRB. If you don't register within the first 30 days of birth, it's now called an LRB, or a late registration of birth, which becomes worse if 1 year passes. That means after 12 months, it becomes a very tedious process. We look for lots of things, but not necessarily a DNA. If those other documents we can find in an LRB, we will ask you to go to the hospital, obviously. Once we find it in the hospital about birth and all that, the problem is usually resolved, but we'll ask you to go to hospital, we'll ask you to go to a crash, we'll ask you to go to church if you ever attended the Sunday school, we'll ask you to go to the royal family if they know you, we'll ask you to go to the ward councillor, and you bring all those documents, and not one Home Affairs official can ever give you an ID after that. There's a tribunal, there are tribunals in Home Affairs offices all over the country. They meet several times a year to consider these documents. And if the tribunal believes, after looking at all the issues, they can now issue with an ID, they do so. Only in extreme cases are they forced to do a DNA. Chairperson, is because if we insist on doing a DNA on everybody, if they come late in life, it's going to be extremely impossible for the country. Why? Because there are 1.2 million babies who are born in South Africa. 80% of them, according to our records, take a birth registration in the first 30 days, as we have said. So it means there's still another 20. They will eventually get their birth certificates, but they do it through an LRB. And now, if in 20% of the people were to do a DNA, it will be a very, very tedious task. So it's not quite correct that we force DNA from poor people. We do it under very extreme conditions. If we are stuck in all directions, then we'll do a DNA. Now, coming to Bester, why a DNA is not done. We are not doing a DNA as Home Affairs because it will be a duplication, Chairperson. The police are already doing that. And this is what happened, if I may explain it to you. Bester was caught of rape for the first time, according to what the police tell us. And in cases of rape, when they want to prove them in court, they usually do a DNA which they obtain from the victim. This has happened, that the victim of Bester, they got a DNA from her, but while they were still processing it, Bester admitted guilt and accepted everything together with the documents the police were bringing. That is the one who raped. So that process was not continued with, but the sample is still there. Then comes the issue of the body which was found in his cell. Obviously, when police did investigation, they decided to do a DNA on that body and on the woman who purported to be Bester's mother. And she agreed, and that DNA was done, and it never matched because clearly that body in that cell was not her son. So that's why they were able to conclude after the DNA results only, not very early, after the DNA results, that this is not Bester. The pathologist who did the postmortem had not yet got the DNA results when he wrote the DHA 1663, because he was called immediately when the body was found. Only after DNA did everybody know that this is not Thabo Bester. That DNA of the mother is there. What is left is that police were waiting for Thabo Bester to arrive and get the DNA from him and complete their investigation. So Home Affairs doesn't have to go in and do that, because what will be it will be a duplication for what? We are waiting, the police will give us the results as soon as they are available. The issue of honorable rules of prisoners being undocumented and migrant not having an ID. Well, honorable rules, I was also not aware of these facts because I've never worked in correctional services. But during this Thabo Bester saga, I happened to phone a lawyer who started work as a lawyer 36 years ago. And he told me that this has always been so, that he started practicing as a lawyer. There are undocumented people who are caught by police, whose fingerprints or IDs or all that are found nowhere. But that's not the reason why judges can't sentence them. They do sentence them without an ID whatsoever. And there are many of them in jails. And even if you search through Home Affairs, you won't find any documentation all over. And I was told that it is like that in many other countries of the world, that they do get people who are thugs and who get committed to facilities, but they don't have any identification whatsoever. And what the correctional service will do is to start building an identification on that person by taking a fingerprint, by taking a photo, by asking them for their names, and they can give wrong ones and all that. But that system is there. Honorable Lowase, yes, I've already answered about the DNA test. Honorable Pilis, you said the person who passed on, who is not Thabo Bester, who we know now is not Thabo Bester, needs a death certificate. Yes, we will issue it immediately after finding out exactly who he is, because at the moment, we don't even know under what name we'll issue. The first one was issued under Thabo Bester, even if it didn't have an ID number, but it was issued under Thabo Bester. So we need to know, and we'll only wait for police to investigate because, and correction services, because they are busy investigating. The issue of registering all the inmates who are illegal, we have already discussed that with correctional services, but we have to be careful who we register and register as who, because we don't want all the people from any part of the world who came here as thugs to immediately become South Africans via registration in the correctional service facilities. We need to think about that carefully. Honorable Lizelle, yes, I understand you. You can fly from here to Dar es Salaam and pay 6,000 rand and then hire a bus to Arusha and then to Kilimanjaro. Yes, you can do that. And you expect us to have done that. I also can do that, by the way. But Honorable Lizelle, which commercial flight do you think will have accepted and the passengers also sit comfortably? Seeing two people in handcuffs entering with a whole lot of people who have to be there to make sure that they don't run away. I don't think any aircraft will have allowed that. I don't remember a situation where thugs of this nature have to be flown around the world in commercial aircraft. Even us in South Africa, we have never deported anybody via commercial aircraft. When we deported Papi Sakyumi, the kingpin who were locked in a church, if you remember, in Central Methodist Church in Cape Town, that man was in the militia of the DRC. Imagine us putting him together with other innocent passengers in a commercial aircraft. I'm sorry we can't do that, Honorable Lizelle, much as we want to save money. But if we did save money and do something like that and something goes wrong, I'm sure I'll be sitting here in front of you doing oversight and you'll be tearing us apart for carelessness. So we couldn't do that. Yes, we took what we call the cheapest flight and we shared it. Home Affairs paid only 1/3 of this because we said corrections must pay and all other involved departments. So it is true that it was a shared cost, but we think this was the best possible outcome for South Africa than trying to use commercial aircraft. If I was an ordinary passenger in an aircraft and see people entering like that, I'll definitely protest. I won't like it. And I don't think there's any aircraft which you like airline, which would like to damage their reputation like that. So this for us was the only best possible way to do what the Tanzanians were asking us to do. It's not true. I saw it on the media that Tanzanians asked us to bring a luxurious aircraft. They never did so. They just said we will want to present these people to immigration officers because we don't want to do rendition. And we are not interested in coming to be accused internationally of rendition. And that's why we had to agree, because we too, we know that that's exactly how we deport people. We do. And we have reported to this committee before about the chartered aircraft which we use when we deport people to as far as DRC, Ethiopia, and all that. They don't travel on the ground. So, they don't travel on the roads. So you must understand that. The issue of high-ranking officials, why I was raising it, Chairperson, I was saying there are only two possibilities how Thabo Bester and Nandiba left South Africa. And all the other countries, remember, it's not only South Africa that was violated when they crossed. You can't cross the border in South Africa and arrive in Tanzania. You cross many other borders, and all of them, you cross them illegally. And as far as I'm concerned, I said the only way to do that is to jump the fence. Jump the fence in South Africa, jump the fence in Zimbabwe, jump the fence in Zambia, jump the fence in other countries until you arrive in Tanzania. And you are aware when they were arrested, they were en route to Kenya. They were still going to jump the fences. So they've been jumping fences all over the continent. Now, I said that's the first possibility. The second one is that a high-ranking official, either in immigration or police, might have facilitated their crossing in. They are crossing at the legitimate port of entry without the passport being checked through the movement control system. Remember, every passport, to make sure that it crossed the border, it's not only the stamp, Honorable Lizette. It's not only the stamp, because we can stamp it and a person throw away that passport and say, my passport was stolen, in order to hide that stamp. So the stamp is not what we rely on, that we have crossed the border. We rely on the movement control system, which is automated. The moment you give you a passport there, and remember the International Civil Aviation Authority said all passport must be machine readable. That means any machine in any part of the world must read it. The moment the machine reads it, it registers on the movement control system and it stays there electronically. Now, just stamping it won't really make much sense, but you are also aware, Honorable Lizelle, that we arrested people in Libombo in 2021, a policeman in uniform and 6 Home Affairs officials, and I reported the matter to the committee, if you remember, who were stamping these passports to pretend that Mozambicans have crossed the border into their own country by just stamping them. And we came to arrest them and found that these people don't even are not even there on the movement control system, and that's why we knew that they did not cross the border. Just 2 weeks ago, very recently, we caught a police officer and an immigration officer who were working with a man from Ethiopia to continue this stamping process, where the Ethiopian arrived in front of the airport, give the passports in a bundle to the police officer who crosses, and because he's wearing a uniform, people don't really look much at him, and arrive inside and get an immigration officer who stamp that. But because we are watching them, we know these activities, and we sometimes know people who are doing them. We watch them over a period of time. That's why we easily catch them. But I want to emphasize why I said a high-ranking officer, because we can't rely on stamps. Thank you very much, Chairperson, on that issue. Then the Honorable Lizelle came with the issue of Guptas. Honorable Lizelle, you may remember that the Guptas got their citizenship illegally. The matter came to Parliament, to the committee and Parliament, and at no stage was the ruling that we must take back that citizenship. I'm not even sure whether legally Parliament can do so. But what Parliament instructed was that the people who gave those documents illegally must be punished. And that's what has happened, must be taken through to DC. But they are citizens. And then they escaped. Now you'll remember that Atul's passport got full and he applied for a new passport. And we said, even if he's a South African, he deserves benefits which other South Africans deserve, like a passport. We can't do so while he's a fugitive from justice. He can't gain from benefits which law-abiding citizens benefit from. And we went to court, and you are aware we won that case. So we do not know, because his passport was full, how long he could travel with that. But that's Abdul. The other gentleman, we're still keeping the passport. Now that remember, there was a process of extradition. You extradited them on the basis that they are South Africans and they committed crimes here. Now that UAE has refused, our next step is to liaise with the Department of Justice and all the other relevant departments, including DERCO, to find out if we can take back our documents. We can't take them back without taking back the permanent residency and the citizenship. That's where it should start. It will be arbitrary in law just to stop their passports and take them away. Atul's passport, we didn't stop. We just did not issue him with a new one when that one was full, and the judge agreed. So this question is not as easy as that. We need to investigate it. If we still stand a chance to extradite them, I don't know whether the department will appeal or follow another method. If we still have, is it wise or strategic to take away their citizenship and their documentation so that they no longer have a link whatsoever with South Africa? Those are the questions that need to be asked and answered. I don't have answers to them. That's why we could not just jump in and say we are taking our passports, our documents. You are also aware that in terms of our laws in South Africa, there is still PAJA, that when you do that administrative action, you must do audio alteram partem. This is what happened with Bushiri, honorable members. When Bushiri was in jail applying for bail, we rushed to court to show the magistrate that this man may escape from the country because he got our documents fraudulently. He also defrauded this church. That's why the Hawks arrested him. And so don't give him bail. But the magistrate gave him bail and put him in the custody of police, that they must check him every 3 times a week. But then we rushed to do this audio alteram partem. We are forced to do it. That's South African law, unfortunately. It's PAJA, that any administrative action, you need to follow that process. We wrote him a letter, audio alteram partem, that please, we are aware that you got our documents fraudulently. Can you give us a reason why we must not retrieve those documents? In this case, it was a permanent residence permit. He rushed to court immediately when he received our letter, and the judge ruled that we cannot take those documents away while he's still to appear in court. And so we were refused those documents of ours. Unfortunately, he definitely is still keeping them on the strength of what the judge has ruled, not what we in Home Affairs did not do. The issue of ZEP, we already said, the chairperson has already ruled that will come and give a report as soon as the judgment will answer every question there. Honorable Yazini, I don't know whether it's Yazini, chairperson or not, but I saw on the screen written Yazini.
Honorable Techana, you can call him Honorable.
Destino was saying Yazini, yeah. Honorable Techana, I'm sorry, my apologies. Yes, I was not coming to the committee to ask for everybody to clap hands for me. I don't definitely expect you to clap hands, and I don't need that at any rate. I was just accounting to the committee and giving them all the facts as we know them, and I've given them. So the issue of clapping hands is neither here nor there, and I certainly am not asking you to do that for me. It's your choice what you want to do. Now, you say I will claim that I've inherited all this and I had all the time to correct it. Honorable members, I want to put the situation for you to understand. This issue of people registering is called, and people being counted and known, is called Civil Registration and Vital Statistics, CRVS. That's what it's called internationally. On the African continent, including us, this is a big problem of civil registration and vital statistics, where you find on the continent people who are born, get married, and they die. Is not recorded anywhere. The international organizations like AU, WHO, United Nations Children's Fund, United Nations for Population Development, they actually call it a scandal of invisibility on the continent. Now, on the continent, in dealing with this scandal of invisibility, we are number 2. There was a media person who asked me a question. When I said we are number 2, he said, no, it's from the bottom, because we always think the worst of ourselves as a country. We are number 2. The only country that beats us on the continent is Egypt. They are at 98% of civil registration of their population. We are at 89%. A few years ago, we were still at 86%. We have now moved to 89. Why did Egypt move so fast to 98? Because they started before us, opening home affairs in hospitals at the source, where you see a baby being born, you know that this is the mother. You don't need any investigation, you don't need any DNAs, and you register them there at the source. And that's what the Egyptians have done. We have started doing that as far back as 2020. And immediately after studying, there was COVID, and we're still continuing. But we've got our own social problems, honorable members. In hospitals, when we open offices, in most of them, we put them next to the labor ward, so that when the mother comes out of the labor ward carrying a baby, they can see written Home Affairs here and think about the birth certificate. We've even asked the nurses to help interact between Home Affairs officials and the mothers who are pregnant. We've asked for that, but many of them leave hospital without their birth certificate, with the office here, right in front of them, because the mother will tell you, look, I came here rushing, I was in labor, and I must go home to consult about the name of the child, so I can't register this child. Please bear with me. And there's no way that we can force them. It's their tradition, it's their social, systems. And those mothers go home, and many of them never come back. You may see that child again after 10 years, when you start investigating and going to the hospital wards and churches and all that to do an LRB. So at the moment, 11% of South Africans are still unregistered because we are at 89%. Many countries on this continent, because I told you we are number 2 at 89, many countries are actually still at 5% of civil registration. DRC is actually at 0%. I met their ambassador last year, who came to ask if South Africa can start producing IDs for them because they don't have them. They also want to start on this civil registration and vital statistics. I've been waiting for him since that time, because we agreed that, yes, we can help. Even if we are not at 100%, we can help others. If you check CRVS, you Google it, you'll find that in 2010, this program was launched in Durban, here in South Africa. The program of civil registration and vital statistics by several international organizations, including the organizations I've mentioned, including AU, because they know that this is a problem on this continent. So people mustn't think there is something unique or very stupid that South Africa has done. It's a continental-wide program, but we are moving ahead, and we are very proud, despite the fact that we don't want anybody to clap hands for us. We are very proud that we are number 2 on the continent, and we are moving very soon, will be where Egypt is, seeing that we've already progressed on opening these Home Affairs offices in hospitals. But we are not going to claim to you that every child who's born there will register them. I've already told them about their mothers. I personally have gone to hospitals many times where you find a certificate having only the mother and not the father, as we have agreed in law, that we need a complete certificate. In the past, it was called unabridged. When it's complete, when there's a summary, it's called abridged. We don't want abridged birth certificates, but we are forced to give them, where only the mother appears, because many of the young girls will not disclose who their fathers are. And that's another social issue which we have to live in. And I want members to know. Honorable Modise Mcha, the process to give an ID, I've already described it, that in the late registration of birth, we need documentation, a tribunal will sit, and only in extreme cases will take a DNA, and not all the time. Once you are satisfied, or the tribunal satisfied themselves about the documents and the affidavits and the evidence we have got, we give an ID. Because, Chair, we argue the biggest source of an identity of a human being is at birth. That's why we're happy about finding the source of Bester at Baragwanath Hospital. Why do we allow other passport? Chairperson, There is no limitation as to the number of passports you can take. I want you to know that there's no limitation. There's no law that says you can only keep one South African passport. You can have many if there are good reasons. Actually, many business people have got many because of the type of life they are living. And we know it's recorded like that, that they have this passport, they've got that, because many of them take their passport to the American embassy or a British embassy to apply for a visa to go to London. Within 24 hours, there's an emergency meeting of business in Germany, and they want to go there. They can't wait for that passport which they've taken to the or Russian fetch it, so they use another passport. I personally, when there was the MEC in Limpopo, I had 3 passports. One was official, the other was diplomatic, and the third one was an ordinary private passport like any other citizen. So there is no law that limits that. What is the important thing is to check this passport, we have given it to whom, under what conditions, can we trace it, etc., etc. But getting many passports is a norm. If we were to say we put a restriction on the number of passports, we're going to destroy many business people, many diplomats, and many people who are very busy, who run around a lot, honorable members. I just want you to know that it's not something that we can easily think of, but there's no legislation that stops people. So when they come and apply, we can't stop them unless members of parliament look in the legislation and in their wisdom start changing that part of the act to say a person can only keep one passport. Dr. Magudumane, Honorable Chabane, did not carry any passport that is irregular. Her passports are in order, Dr. Nandi Magudumane. There is nothing wrong with them. There is no way to query them. She has never asked for any affidavit. She has just taken them straight like me and you as South Africans. The question we are having with her is why she was carrying the 2 other passports from the other doctor, Mereka and Nancy. Nancy. So the lady who must ask those questions is really her. Why did you give them this passport? And coincidentally, you give your second passport to the same lady who happened to be carrying the one which you reported stolen. And why did you report to the police when you did the affidavit that you gave them this passport because they were going to apply for you a work citizenship in the US, when such a thing, when it's not true that in the US they allow people to apply for others? Those are the questions, and police are dealing with them. They've already visited her and asked some of these questions. Yes, the issue of interaction with corrections. Yes, Chairperson, we are definitely doing it. Chairperson, you are asking about the Lubisi team. What is their attitude to what has happened with Bester? If you remember, Chairperson, the Lubisi team were more interested about syndicates who were coming to South Africa to take, to register in a way that is fraudulent, to get retirement visas at a very young age, to get fraudulent documents in the form of PR, permanent residence and all that. That's what they were interested in. You'll remember that the recommendation was that we put a multidisciplinary team of advocates, researchers, investigators, data analysts. We have done so, Chairperson. As I'm speaking, the team is busy. They are working around the clock. But we had to go through procurement processes to acquire such a team. It was difficult because there's no ready-made team or company everywhere in the world that has got advocates, lawyers, data analysts, etc. We had to start from the beginning to create such a thing, and it is there. And they are busy analyzing, they are busy checking, and very soon we'll be giving you results about their findings of people who are there. Honorable Lizelle, like repeating, that we know that 40% of our passports are actually defrauded. I think that was a little bit of a misunderstanding. Dr. Lubis was asked, in their estimate, how many documents do they think could be defrauded? And he took a wild guess. He said close to 40,000. That's where the 40% came from. He was just guessing that they think so, but only this multidisciplinary team will come with the correct answer And as I've said, they started the work, honorable members. Thank you very much, honorable members. That's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for detailed response. And thanks, members, for comments that have been made. We must, part of our work as an oversight of a committee is to make sure that the minister and his team accounts to the committee, but also make sure that the decision that we take are implemented by the minister. And so far, there are certain decisions we have taken since we rise in this committee, and those decisions have been taken by or implemented by the minister or the department or the IEC, Government Printing Works, and the Border Management Authority. Now, where credit we must give, members of the committee have always demonstrated that, and where there are weaknesses, there are critical issues that we raise with the minister, members of the committee have always exercised that right. And I think to this account, we must indicate that services serving the people of this country is what we have now demonstrated, Minister Motsoaledi, for having keeping contact, updating the citizen on the issues that are concerning South Africans. And so what we want to appreciate for you and other departments for having closely with the issues, so that when you come to the committee or the parliament, you have an authority of clarity on the issues, but the public are always updated on the issues that we're dealing with. And I think as a committee, we do appreciate the current steps the department has taken, the groundwork the police have taken to able to get this Thabo Bester and his colleague back to the country. But also must appreciate the cooperation with other countries in terms of this work that has been done for us to be able to get these criminals. Honorable Ross, I see you are raising your hand on the matter. I think you will raise a follow-up or so. Can you come in? Then we stand off this item we get into the next item. Honorable Ross.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, it is a follow-up with your permission, Chairperson.
Yes, proceed.
Minister, just in terms of the Gupta issue, because it was raised during the questioning, at the moment in the Supreme Court, there's a loss of citizenship case about Section 6(1) of the South African Citizenship Act. And it basically says that a South African citizen will cease to be a South African citizen if they, while not being a minor, by some voluntary or formal act other than marriage, acquires the citizenship or nationality of a country other than the Republic. And then it says, prior to this, they may apply to the minister for permission to retain their South African citizenship. But otherwise, this Section 6(1) means that when the Guptas applied for the Vanuatu citizenship, that they would then automatically lose their South African citizenship. So I just wanted to understand, did the Guptas apply to the minister to retain their South African citizenship before they took on the Vanuatu citizenship? In which case, it's pretty obvious in the law that they have lost their citizenship. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson.
Looks like we might have lost the chairperson. Honorable Modise, could you please step in to chair?
Yes, indeed, Honorable Lizelle, I see you have raised your hand.
Thank you very much, Acting Chairperson. Yes, I also just wanted to see clarity on the issues of the Guptas, because the Minister said in his answering remarks, he said that, as we all know, the Guptas obtained their citizenship fraudulently. And now we also know that they have acquired citizenship in a new country. So surely in my mind, considering that it was obtained fraudulently and that they've acquired new citizenship, that they cease to be citizens of our country and therefore their documents can be withdrawn. So just clarity in that regard. But secondly, I wanted to ask, when I asked about the issues of the private jet that we chartered to go and fetch Dr. Nandipa and Thabo Bester, I asked clarity about why it took 14 officials to be able to do that. In other words, I wanted to find out, are those 14 Home Affairs officials, or were they 14 officials from, for example, Home Affairs, Department of Justice and Correctional Services and Police, or were they just 14 of our officials? Thank you.
Thank you, members. Let me check, is there any other member who has a follow-up question before I allow the Minister to respond? Thank you very much. Also, Minister, just to add, there was a question raised with regard to the written death certificate that was issued by Home Affairs, because the doctor who conducted the pathologist would have then written that form with that form without an ID number. Therefore, we wanted to know if that death certificate handwritten, is it a legal document recognized? Thank you. You can respond, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Yes, Honorable Rios, that's true what you are saying. We also read about the citizenship of the Guptas in Vanuatu, but we never received anything, Honorable Chair. But I want to remind Honorable Rios, that was our position that we have got to write to the Minister, if you know. But your party, Honorable Rios, the DA, went to court about this issue of having to get permission from the Minister. You are aware that we won it in the High Court, but the DA has appealed to the Supreme Court of Appeal. That case is still to be heard. But now that I heard, I just saw in the media about this group that getting citizenship in Vanuatu. As I'm saying, I'm going to sit down with the Department of Justice and DERCO. We have not yet said to discuss the implication of this, including this issue of acquiring citizenship without asking for permission from the Minister, which is now in court at the present moment. I still have to be guided. What do we do now that the DA has appealed this position, which Honorable Rose is now saying we must apply? Honorable Lizel, maybe I made a terrible mistake for which I need to apologize. When I said the Guptas got their documents fraudulently, I'm apologizing. Please wrap that off. The Parliament, when this matter was discussed, did not find fraud. What they found is that they got this naturalization prematurely. That means before the prescribed period, because Home Affairs argued that they are expediting it because the Guptas are investors, which the committee did not accept and which many of us, including me, of course, do not accept, that they were investors. But that was the reason. So it was not really fraud. It was just using political power to expedite a person naturalization. That's why then you passed a policy or a law, which I'm following now, that every time the Minister expedite anybody's naturalization, I must come to Parliament to report what are the reasons, which means Parliament did not abolish expediting naturalization, but they want to understand good reasons. There must be good reasons why we are doing so. So in the case of the Guptas, it was like that. It was not fraud at all. I apologize again profusely for misleading the committee or the public, whoever is listening. Please wrap that off your notes. It was not fraudulent. It was expedited. They got it before the prescribed period on the basis that they are investors, and the committee has rejected that issue. Now, the 14 officials, yes, you are right, Honorable Lizel. It was not only people from Home Affairs, and let me also correct, when we ordered the aircraft. We say any aircraft that can carry 14 people, because at that time, there was also a Mozambican, which we also thought will come, only to discover that we've got no links with him. That's why he didn't come. There was also a Home Affairs official who was sent initially with police there. And so we asked for a flight that can carry 14, but eventually it carried 12. And yes, you are right. They come from correctional services. They come from security services. They come from immigration officials. We also counted the 2 pilots inside this number. So it was people from correction, from the police, from Home Affairs, immigration, etc., etc. It was not only Home Affairs officials who flew in that chartered flight. Thank you very much. Chairperson.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Back.
Thank you, Chair. You can take over. The Minister was responding to the follow-up questions that were made by members. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes.
Honorable Mudisemza, for covering up. Thanks for your leadership. I think, Minister, we have exhausted this item. Members have made their comments. Follow-up carried. We'll then able to get a response from formal presentation or report as we agreed, so that in the next follow-up issues, we're able to interact with the members of the committee as we conduct an oversight. And I assume that also the Justice and Correctional Service will also request the same presentation as they engage on their work. We'll then stand off this item. If there's no any other matter, Minister, thanks very much for responding to our request to deal with this item. We've dealt.
Chairperson, my apologies.
Yes, Minister.
Yes, for the second time, Chairperson, I'm sorry. I did not answer Honorable Malebu's what you call Mudisemja's question about whether these handwritten certificates are legal documents. Yes, they are. And the conditions under which we write them are these, Honorable Mudisemja. If we find a foreign national who has died here, because at the moment, they are not supposed to be on the National Population Register, and the system in which they are do not register birth is a system that has always been there. You may remember that we issued a bill which the committee once discussed, and it will soon go out, whereby we are saying the National Population Register, the NIIS, National Information Immigration System, the VAS, must all be abolished. And we come with one system called NIS, National Information System, where everybody who's within the borders, whether it's foreign or not, is there, and we record all their death and all that. So because we don't record their death and birth and marriage now, that document is handwritten. The second time we issue a handwritten document for South Africans now is if the cause of death is not known. The Home Affairs death certificate come in 3 forms. It's written natural death, unnatural, or still be investigated. While they say it's still being investigated, we don't know who killed this, how the person died, because he might have been murdered, in which it comes a police case. Once we still investigating, we write a handwritten documents and wait. If the investigation is complete, we then go and write a computerized normal document which appeared on the National Population Register. So, and once we get a DH 1663 form, which has got no ID, we also issue a handwritten document. That's what we have done with Bester. But all those documents, yes, are legal documents, which can actually be produced anywhere if we have to. But they are filed separately from the real documents that appear in the National Population Register. Thank you very much. Chair, I finished.
Chairperson, are you still here?
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Salmon will take your item, and then will request Honorable Mudisemtsa to preside over that item. I'm struggling with the network so that we don't disrupt the proceeding of the committee. Thank you.
We still need the chairperson?
The item that you're supposed to deal with, Minister, you have exhausted it with your team. Thanks very much. You can be released, Minister, on the team, but the two issues that committee decided on, prepare the report. Immediately the judgment has been handed over on the ZEP. You are requested to, we'll schedule you in the following committee meeting as the first item to update the committee.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mudisemtsa.
Acting Chair or Chairperson, if you can't hear, I will proceed just on the item 7 as you advised. Can I confirm that members can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Let me just ensure that there is still a quorum because we need to adopt this report. Yes, we still have a quorum. Members, we sent through this budget annual plan and oversight report to members yesterday, but it's essentially just a summary of the proceedings from our budget engagement, our strategic plan engagement, and our oversight to Home Affairs Head Office and Menden Office. The report kind of goes into detail with all these aspects, and a lot of it the members will be familiar. So I'm not going to go into the full document. Essentially, we try to condense the essence of all these engagements into the recommendations, which are the primary focus with the document when we forward it to the department and the entities. So I'll go to the end of the document where the recommendations are, and members can provide guidance on how we move forward with the report. So we'll adopt it and we can amend if necessary. So going all the way to the last page, which is on page 33, the recommendations which we have listed there is the DHA, an update on all outstanding report recommendations contained in the interim legacy report of the committee be required by the third quarter of 2023. And then secondly, whilst the additional allocation of funds increasing the DHA capacity is appreciated, the DHA budget should continue to increase capacity even beyond the 55% currently allowed given the ongoing delays in services to the public. Planning should start to possibly retain some of the youth employed in the digitization project after their 2-year contracts. 11.3, whilst the additional caution introduced to prevent fraud in applications for visas and permits is important, there must be decentralization and downward delegation of the applications with other ad hoc and automated system checks and balances put in place to address the backlog. The branch appointment booking system should be enhanced to ensure that it accommodates the collections of documents and that walk-ins should be allowed in all offices. The DHA should capacitate the call center to ensure that members of the public are assisted timeously. The DHA should ensure queries sent to the department by committee members on behalf of the public should be responded to. The DHA should deal with long queues at its offices and mobile offices should be procured and deployed in rural areas. DHA offices in rural areas should also be more modernized to ensure that the phasing out of green identity documents. The committee requested that the DHA should focus on applications for identity documents towards the 2024 national and provincial elections, and there be cooperation with the IEC. The DHA should ensure that all its offices installed cameras for security purposes. The DHA should work faster on resolving late registrations of birth to ensure that all South Africans have the necessary documents, while at the same time, people should be encouraged to register births within 30 days. And the committee would conduct an oversight visit to the VFS. Secondly, for the BMA should work closely with National Treasury to get more funding for the full operationalization of the BMA, expansion of its patrolling of the borderlines, and rollout to guarding coastal borders. The BMA should continually endeavor to make good on the promise that its establishment would improve efficiency of border management beyond the capacity ceded from other departments, despite its fiscal constraints. An update on all outstanding report recommendations contained in the interim legacy report of the committee will be required by the third quarter of 2023. Similarly, for the IEC, an update for on the outstanding report recommendations in our interim legacy report will be required by the third quarter. Funding provisions will need to be made for the inclusion of independent candidates in the forthcoming national and provincial elections and forthcoming Party Funding Act amendments. The IEC should aspire towards its initial target set in 2019 for registration of 29 million voters and 74% participation in elections. The IEC will require additional funding in the adjusted budget to allow for extensive voter education and mobilization, given the changes to the electoral laws around independent candidates. And then for GPW, an update on all outstanding report recommendations contained in the interim legacy report of the committee will be required by the third quarter. There should be a timeline provided by GPW on the implementation of remaining ministerial review panel report recommendations. The DHA needs particular focus and oversight on ensuring the timely submission of accurate audit data to internal and external audit and consequence management for their election in this regard. The GPW should work in collaboration with National Treasury to ensure that non-payment by government clients after 30 days is addressed. And GPW must provide an update on its consultation on the State Princes Bill and finalize the tabling of this legislation as a matter of urgency. So acting Chair, this is what do we have for the recommendations thus far? I'll leave it to you to guide the members' participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salmon. Is the chair out of the meeting again?
I'm back again, Honorable Modisemtsa.
Okay, Chair.
We want to proceed?
Yes, Chair. I've just gone through the guidelines. We can ask members for their participation.
Can I carry on, Honorable Modisemtsa, or you will proceed?
Proceed, Chair.
Okay, thank you, members. In case I cut off this network, we're trying to navigate. Can I invite members to comment on the report? I will start with Honorable Ruos, Honorable Lokwase, Honorable Pile, Honorable Lizel, Honorable Modisemtsa, Honorable Techana. Honorable Lokwase. Honorable Rose.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to Adam for the presentation. Just a few things, and it's quite difficult. And I know we had some draft of this, but to receive it at 6 p.m. yesterday and to really go through it and do the documentary comparisons is quite a challenge. I think the one thing that perhaps we need to be stronger on is the visa adjudication. And the one thing we'd said as a committee is that even though there are some visa categories that are not in the APP, we should still receive a report on them. And this includes things like spousal visas, because, you know, we've been informed by the Deputy Minister that spousal visas are not important because they're not in the APP. But you must remember that one half of that spousal relationship is a South African citizen. And there's children, there's families involved. These are very important things. There's other types of visa documents as well. We need to understand where we are with all of them, even if they're not in the APP, so that we are able to intervene where necessary. So I think it's something we discussed. Another issue that I didn't see was about what Honorable Pillay mentioned and what we'd raised when we did the site visit in terms of documents received from visa facilitation services and the need for the PPP to be expedited so that they become responsible or accountable for how that information is collected. And then avoiding the situation where an application goes through a whole process and then comes out at the end and they say, oh, you didn't submit a document. So shortcutting that process. I think that's also an important outcome. I'm not sure that I see it here. And then in terms of the BMA, I think it was quite clear in our strategic session that the Treasury was saying that funding is going to be very difficult. I don't think they were really assuring us. So I think where we have there about it talks about cooperation between the BMA and Treasury. But I think also, and specifically for the next Parliament, I think there's going to need to be a determination to say how much money is available and what is the BMA going to be able to do. Because it's very difficult for us, the BMA, it's legislation, it's now an unfunded mandate, as we said it was going to be. And so you have certain things in there that are now being farmed out to other line departments. And so, you know, that is another thing here in terms of recommendations. I think it's perhaps to be a little bit stronger that the BMA needs to be fully funded to achieve its mandate. Because it seems like it's not happening, and therefore now we're in a strange interim situation where the BMA cannot really be expected to succeed. So that's my only inputs for now, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Lewis, for your contributions and issues that you have raised, including the matter of concern on the report that was sent late. Can I invite Honorable Pillay?
Thank you very much, Chair. Firstly, I wanted to propose if we could perhaps have this report adopted next week at our next meeting, because we received this document very late last night. And I think, you know, this is an important document that we need to ensure that everything that we've discussed is captured. And personally, I've not been able to go through the entire document. The one that is glaring is definitely on the permitting, where we had discussion about the first line of contact in terms of ensuring that quality process is checked, the checklist is checked, and then it doesn't go through any other process, that immediately the client is informed that you have missing documents and it can't proceed, but that's not captured. Again, what Honorable Ruas has mentioned about the Triple P, I think it's important that we as members can be able to go through it. Perhaps there may be other items that we've missed, and we have enough time to then bring it to the committee when we meet next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Pillay. Honorable Lizel.
Chairperson, I'm covered by the Honourable Pillay because I was going to ask you whether you would allow us to please go through the document and email our inputs to Mr. Salmon, because I'm honest with you, I didn't read the document because I only saw it late. And so I haven't been able to go through it because I was preparing to go through the other presentations that were sent to us as well. So if you would allow us, because I think I'm covered on the issue of the BMA funding as raised by Honourable Ruas, but there are other issues that I wanted to input on in terms of immigration and also permitting, which I will want to formulate some recommendations and send to Adam, if you would allow us, so that we can then in the next meeting adopt the report. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lizelle. Honorable Tejana. Okay, Honorable Lokhwase. Honorable Modisemta.
Thank you, Chair. I think I will also align myself with the views that maybe we should adopt this document in the next meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks very much, members. Mr. Salmon, thanks very much for presenting the document. Noting that the document was received late, members did not have enough time to interact with the document or the details. We will then resolve to adopt this report in the next meeting. But in the interim, if there are issues that members have noted or identified on the report, we can submit our issues to the Mr. Salmon. Then you'll just go through the notes that we have received from members in our next meeting. Then we'll able to formally adopt the report. Let's note the report and refer it to the next meeting for members to deal with that. Mr. Salmon, is that will make you comfortable in terms of the process that we have established?
Yes, Chairperson. I believe we still have some time before the budget vote debates. I think we should still be able to adopt the report before the budget vote debates.
Okay, no thanks, but I think you must take note of the issues members are raising of late report and expectation for members the following morning to deal with the report. You know that other members are serving various committees, and there's a lot of work that members are engaging on. So I think we must appreciate that point that they've been raising in good spirit. But thanks, members. Is there any other item, Mr. Salman?
Just to indicate that, Chairperson, there is a public holiday next week, and so we don't have a meeting scheduled. And then the following week, the intention was to have an in-person meeting, but we'll still confirm that with communication with members. Also, given the urgency on the electoral bill, we might need to call an emergency meeting in the next week, given the timing. But we'll again also communicate with members, depending on what we decide in the management meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
No, it's fine. Thanks, members. What we'll do, Mr. Salman will immediately interact with the minister's team to work out that a report. You're correct that we'll need a request from the table, the special meeting to deal with that matter. And obviously, there are other issues that are urgent, as members have guided that it must not take long, and we'll then have a process forward in our when we raise the issues in MENCO. Thanks, members, for attending this meeting, and thanks for deliberations and guidance to the committee and all the issues that have been raised. We've noted, we'll follow up on them. And thanks very much. The meeting stand adjourned.